What is going on, beautiful people? Welcome to another build video. As you can see, today we're going to be taking on Digistruct Peak, and it's been a while since I did a Peak build, so I figured I'd go ahead and do one. Now, I am using a Maliwan Zer0 build here, and I realized it would be fairly easy to do so because I'd have access to a ton of great stuff. Even though you can see right off the bat, I got two of these friggin' slag Centurions, which are really difficult to deal with. Honestly, I just struggle with these guys. They're just a big mass of purple, and I haven't really figured out the proper way to fight them. But anyway, Maliwan Zer0 actually has access to a ton of great stuff. Obviously, you've got the Pimpernel, you also got the Antagonist, you've got the Rogue Comms, you got Transfusion Grenades, Norfleets, all kinds of stuff. Although I'm not sure if I actually end up using a Norfleet. But you've got the Grog Nozzle, I don't think I use it either. But anyway, you got access to a ton of great stuff. And then the Maliwan Allegiance Relic itself is just really good too. Now you might notice the visuals look slightly different. Whenever I was trying to record this video, for some reason I was getting frame drops, and I just couldn't figure out what it was. So, see, here's another freaking slag Centurion. But I ended up, if you use the community mod manager, the Borderlands community mod manager, it has an option to disable the black lines, and that will give you a big performance boost. Because there's those black lines around everything that gives it that stylistic pop, which I do think looks really nice, but it's really hard on, it takes a lot performance-wise. So I thought maybe the frame drops were coming from that, but they weren't. I still don't know what was causing it. But anyway, that's why the visuals look slightly different. I like the black lines a lot, so I'm not crazy about this. But anyway, you can see with the bar tanks, Bor will just destroy them when you can get your shots properly placed. But it had been a while since I did a Digistruct Peak run, so I figured I might as well go ahead and do one. I've got ideas for plenty more. I'm definitely not out of ideas anytime soon. I've even got ideas for a couple more Axton runs, even though he is my least favorite character to run the Peak with out of the characters I play, which is Zer0, Axton, and Maya, or Maya, as some people insist. But anyway, you can see obviously the Pimpernel is a great weapon, and it deals with the Peak really effectively. Now, another reason I wanted to do this is because I realized I hadn't done a Peak run where I demonstrated how to pre-stack Critical Ascension. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that here. Obviously, having access to all this great stuff made this for one of the easiest Peak runs I've done. I've done a lot of hard Peak runs on my channel. I've actually did an Axton run recently with like a shock challenge build. I think I called it Thunderlord Axton. And I used like the Peak opener and the easy mode for that interaction and like a twister and some other shock locked weapons. And it ended up actually being super tough. And anyway, I accidentally deleted the footage because I'm a smooth brain. But I wasn't that upset because it was a very sloppy run. I was doing live commentary, so the commentary was mostly just me trying not to die the whole time. So I'm not that bummed about it. I'll try to do it again. And you know, again, maybe once I start streaming, I can stream some of these attempts and then also make a video out of the final product, you know. I've mentioned this big project I'm working on recently. I made a lot of progress today. I think tomorrow I'll be able to finish most of it. It should be up for everyone, hopefully within a week, and then I've got to start streaming that Zer0 playthrough. I really want to get to that because if it goes well, I want to stream my first Borderlands 4 playthrough. Hopefully Borderlands 4 has what I'm looking for. Hopefully it's got, you know, really fun characters, Zer0 adjacent characters, and some really challenging content so I can really sink my teeth into it. That's what I'm really hoping for. We will see. I know, you know, some people are probably thinking, why don't I give other types of characters a chance? And I could. If they make a character that's different than Zer0 but still really fun, I would love that. But so far, no character has come close to being as fun as Zer0 for me. Now you can see how quickly we took out the Scorch there. They do actually take slightly more damage from shock than corrosive for some reason, but we were able to get them overlapping there and dealt a lot of damage. So we'll go ahead and take them out. If you guys have ran the Peak, you know how tanky they are, so Zer0 is just so fun to run the Peak with. He's by far my favorite character to do so. Okay, so I did use the Norfleet a little bit. Because Zer0 just has so much damage being a glass cannon that he can really make quick work of a lot of these super tanky enemies in this game. Mai has a pretty good advantage here with phase lock as well. Axton, it's a little bit harder for him in my opinion than compared to those two characters, or at least for the way I play them. Axton is definitely the character I'm the least experienced with of the ones that I play. But anyway, I think, so it looks like we got the bad spawn here where Dukino's mom does not spawn with minions. Meaning that if I were to get downed, I would not have access to second wind. So had to be really careful here. I was just backpedaling and trying to stack Critical Ascension. I think I came in with a stockpile relic. Yeah, you can see I did because I've got above 132 sniper rounds. Oh yeah, that's what I forgot to mention that. What you saw me drop the Maliwan Allegiance relic at the start, and then I just ran by it right there. In hindsight, that was a tactical error. I should have picked that up. I think it ends up costing me a lot here. Now, whenever you get to this section with the double Black Queens, they are also very tanky. So they can take a while. This section can be super tedious. If you don't have a character, or at least you're not using a build that can take them out quickly, they can spawn a ton of minions and it becomes a slog. That's what happened in that Thunderlord Axton video. It took me forever to clear this section. But sometimes when you come in here, you have to fight some mobs first, or sometimes they spawn immediately. Another error I made here, whenever you have surveyors here, okay, no, I didn't. See, I actually did it right. You want to take out the surveyors before you take out the last enemy that you can critically hit, right? Because you can't critically hit surveyors, so if you kill them last, you're going to be burning stacks of critical ascension. But by leaving one of these types of enemies alive, you can, of course, keep critting them to get your stacks up. Now, whenever I pre-stack, I do use a Maliwan sniper rifle. So this is a true allegiance build, a true challenge build, which uses all Maliwan gear, except for the class, or the relic, excuse me. But relics actually aren't even manufactured normally. So, oh, look how fast we just melted her. Man, God, Zer0's so freaking great, dude. But technically, Maliwan doesn't make the Maliwan Allegiance relic either. So I feel like for relics, you should have a little more flexibility, because I use a stockpile relic for a little bit here too. Like I said, I ran past it, and I think I probably made a mistake. I probably should have picked up my Maliwan Allegiance relic again on the first pass through in here. Now, I was using shock on the Black Queens there. I'm not actually sure which one they take more damage from. I think they probably take more damage from corrosion. I'm not sure though. Another thing is, guys, I'm pretty sure that the enemies on here aren't weak to anything. Like unless they're like bots. If they're bots, they're weak to corrosion. But the enemies who have like Digistructed Bandit in their name or whatever, they actually aren't weak to corrosion. They're not weak to anything. It's just that it's better to use corrosion damage when boosted by Bone of the Ancients than it is to use non-elemental damage against them. And since the bots actually do take increased damage from corrosion, people usually just use, corrosive for their primary weapon. And again, you can see their primary element, I should say. You can see just how quickly we're melting them, man. Zer0 is just so much fun. He can do the peak so easily. Like, if you're allowing yourself to pre-stack critical ascension, he can just destroy the peak. Oh, I also have access to the Share of Me. So much good stuff here. And I haven't even pre-stacked yet. This is just the power of Zer0 with critical ascension, even when limited by a true Allegiance challenge build. So he's just very fun to run the peak with. He has a lot of options. Now, what I'm doing here is this is how one of the easiest ways to stack critical ascension. You leave one of the boneheads alive, okay? He needs to be the last enemy. You need to clear out all the other enemies. And then ideally what you want to do is shoot his arms off. So I equipped my Rakill there. I'm keeping it a Maliwan Allegiance build. Then I equip, I think, a stockpile relic, and I'm going to go collect a bunch of ammo before I start pre-stacking. This way I can just pre-stack and then run into the next section, right? So I'm showing you all those ammo crates I opened. And then here's just me pre-stacking with the Rakill. Now, ideally, what you want to do is find an angle on him where he can't hit you. Now, like you can stand behind a corner or something. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't really do that because he was out in the middle of the open, but I ended up getting a ton of stacks here. I think I ended up with over 200. And you want to equip the Chaotic Neutral Rogue too for the fire rate and magazine size bonuses. Now, if you end up filling up on your sniper ammo and you have the crates still have sniper ammo in them, you can pick them up after you get done pre-stacking. So run up here, open these, then we jump down. This section can be kind of tricky. You got to be careful here. If a bunch of enemies spawn, they can overwhelm you here. That little square structure near the entrance is your best cover here if you do get overwhelmed. Sometimes Dark Mercies can spawn and push you back there. Sometimes you have to deal with Constructor version 3s. It can be really tough. But with this many stacks of critical ascension, we can make pretty easy work of most of these enemies. Now we're almost up to the Assassin's Arena, which is the hardest part in my opinion. It's the part that I die the most in, and usually if I pass that part, I always win. Now, the Dark Mercies, it's kind of hard to see their heads sometimes through all the visual pollution, so if you're not super experienced with fighting them, it can be kind of hard to crit them. But even that said, we had so much critical ascension, it didn't matter. I was able to take them out really easily there. So we'll just polish off some remaining mobs before we head on to the next section. I don't think I got too many more tough enemies here. I don't think I got a constructor or anything. But yeah, Maliwan Zer0, one of his strongest allegiance builds, probably. I've done a lot of Zer0 allegiance builds at this point. I've got a Zer0 Vladoff allegiance build. That was in my OP10 Gun0 guide. I can't remember what all I've got. Oh, those guys are really tanky, and look how easily we took him out. So we enter here with, I think, about 160 stacks of critical ascension. Now, we also got the spawn with, it looks like, the turrets here. They can be kind of tricky. Although the good news is they're easy to get second wins off of. But if you do want to see my peak builds, I have them organized into a playlist. All the videos on my channel are organized into playlists. For my build videos, I have one playlist which is just OP10 builds, and then one playlist which is specifically for Digistruct Peak builds. And I've got, I think, 14 or 15 at this point. But anyway, we'll try to take them out. Again, this section can be really tough. If you get overwhelmed, the best bet is to hide behind that pop right there to my left. Although you still have to be careful because they can push you back there and pin you, and it can be very risky. Otherwise, you've got to use these two structures in the middle for cover. But even that said, a lot of enemies can spawn here and they can overwhelm you, so you just gotta play as efficiently as possible, as quickly as possible. And then this freaking guy is so hard to crit sometimes. I swear to God, his hitboxes are not accurate. And if you're struggling here, the easiest thing to do is just gonna be to B-Hawk it or something. Bring a Grog Nozzle and a Chain Lightning, and also just a really good rocket launcher like a Norfleet can help if you do get downed, and just like a fastball, stuff like that. You can see even with all my critical ascension, I was kind of struggling here, and which we've bled a lot. We're below 100 stacks at this point, just because again a couple of these guys can be really hard to crit. Finally, almost took him out, and then we've got the last one left here. But again, once you do get past this section, you'll usually win, at least in my experience. It's just this part is by far the hardest. Now, the last section before you fight the binary boss can be kind of tricky, actually. So, I mean, just look at how I was struggling to crit him so badly. I was getting so irritated here. Even with him standing still, and I swear to God, it looked like I was critting him at times and it just wasn't registering, but I ran forward here to just try to deal some damage while I still had some stacks of critical ascension. That whenever you're playing Zer0 and you are relying on having high levels of critical ascension, you've got to play quickly, obviously, to keep your stacks from depleting, because if you take too long meandering around, they'll obviously bleed. But you can see we took out that Slag Centurion really easily. Then I'm focusing on taking out these surveyors while they are standing still. Then this guy, man, I just couldn't take him out. Finally got him there. Obviously, I'm not worried about the bar tank there because we can bore him really easily. Sometimes I just struggle to get my shots off there. Finally took him out. I can't remember if I got too many rabid skags here. I like to knock them off the map if you've seen some of my previous peak runs. But whenever you have this much critical ascension, you can also just take them out normally. Again, I was struggling a lot in this run. I just couldn't line up the shot. I guess his front panel on his leg there was blocking it. Finally got him there, and I ran out of ammo, so I did have to go purchase more ammo. And that's another good thing about some of these final sections is this section obviously has access to an ammo vendor. And then the final section before the binary boss also has, you also have access to an ammo vendor there. Although that one can be a little bit more risky to purchase ammo from while the enemies are still spawned. And don't get overconfident. Again, I usually clear the peak when I beat the Assassin's Arena, but every now and then I do die in the section before the binary boss. If you get like the toughest spawns there, you can actually run into a lot of trouble. I had one run, I can't remember, it may have been that Thunderlord Axton build. And I had just got a bunch of tough enemies, and I almost got stuck there. I barely was able to push through it. Then with the Saturns here, thank God for Zer0, he has Bore. So this is another run where I don't use the B-Shield. I don't think I've used the B-Shield for any of my peak runs with Zer0. Well, I think with my very first melee build on here, I used it occasionally. But Zer0, obviously having access to Bore and critical ascension, he just doesn't really need the B-Shield for some of these sections. Although I was struggling, I'm usually able to take them out faster, but for whatever reason, I just was not able to. Now, I've wanted to redo that melee build. That was one of the first times I ever cleared the peak with Melee Zer0, so I hadn't even played the peak very much at that point. So I was very inexperienced. I made a lot of mistakes, so I could definitely come back and do that build better. I would like to do that eventually and do a run not using the B shield at all. Now here you can see we have a Constructor version 3, but thankfully with Critical Ascension and the Pimpernel, we're able to do good work to it. This can be pretty hard if you don't have access to the damage that Zer0 does. Yeah, in that Thunderlord Axton video, I got him down to a sliver of health, and then I just couldn't finish him off, and he kept healing back to full. It was a super painful run, so again, I'm not super bummed that I accidentally deleted it. I can definitely get a cleaner run. But you can see we are almost through this section here. Once you take out the Constructor version 3, you just gotta polish off these stragglers. And at this point, again, it's just a matter of don't get overconfident and, you know, don't take unnecessary risks, you know, because in most of the game, it's fine if you have a more aggressive playstyle because you don't really get punished for dying. But for the peak, it's really demoralizing when you make it this far and die. So always stick to cover when you're this far. Always just be careful. And see right here, I was really struggling to take that guy out. I finally got him. And at this point, I've got quite a bit of Critical Ascension. So I can't remember how much I struggled in the next section. This footage has actually been sitting on my PC for a while because I've been working on a lot of other content. But the Maliwan Allegiance Relic is one of the best. I believe it can roll with damage, fire rate, and reload speed. So it's one of the best. Took out that bar tank. Looks like we got some surveyors here, so pretty annoying. Not too troublesome with the Pimpernel though. So their shields are pretty tanky. You do want to match elements to take their shields out. I mean, just look at how tanky they are, man. Enemies that are that mobile should not have that much health, you know. This is Zer0 with the Pimpernel on a slagged and death-marked enemy, and that's all it was doing. So we got an ultimate badass loader here. Trying to take him out here. Oh, yeah, I did get overwhelmed quite a bit here. So, yeah, this section, again, it can be tricky. When you've got, you got a lot of tough enemies here. So I almost got downed, and I anticipated getting down, so I swapped to my Norfleet. So you got to be really careful. So see, I even paused the game for a second because I was like, oh, fuck, dude, I'm gonna die. I made it this far, and I'm gonna die. So, yeah, this section, again, it can be kind of tricky. Oh, and there's that issue that happens with the Pimpernel, or excuse me, the Norfleet a lot, where you end up downing yourself with it because it does so much damage. So at this point, I was thinking I was not going to make it. Because in tough content in this game, sometimes you get stuck in a situation of where you get downed and you get a second wind and you just get downed again and you just get stuck in a circle of getting downed over and over again and you just can't recover. So this was very hairy. Yeah, whenever you get these super badass surveyors and a really tough enemy, it can just be really hard to take him out before the enemy heals him, right? So fortunately, I had access to a Norfleet, so I was able to take him out, which I probably could have with the Pimpernel, but that just made it easier. Now, even still, you got to be careful because they can apply a dot to you. They actually can deal quite a lot of damage, again, for how mobile and how tanky they are. So finally took that guy out, and now we've got the last enemy here before we get to the binary boss. Surveyors are just really annoying. If you can create some distance, they'll usually fly at you in a straight line, and that'll help you take them out, but, you know, they don't always do that. So anyway, here we are at the binary boss, and as you can see, Zer0 can just bore him really easily. If you're using the B shield, Zer0 can actually just kill him immediately in one shot. But yeah, I do want to redo a melee Zer0 run, because for one, I've got a better Roid shield, a better Love Thumper now. And I would just like to get a cleaner run, and one that doesn't use the B shield at all. I just kind of used it in that first run for demonstrative purposes, but I might try to do that again. I've got plenty more ideas for more peak builds. But anyway, guys, there is the Maliwan Allegiance 0. Oh, I got a Stalker, but no element, rip. But there's the Maliwan Zer0 Allegiance build taking on Digistruct Peak. I demonstrated how to do the pre-stacking method. But I do hope you guys have enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. And special thanks to my members, and an extra special thanks to my Verastis Slayers, Evan, Cass, Drake Solidor, Jonas Hedberg, Legan Werdna, and Shadow96. Yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Stay safe, and be here next time.